Mike, we're talking about fasting. You wrote a book called Fasting, Rediscovering the Ancient Pathways. And obviously, we are tripartite beings, body, soul, spirit. Fasting seems to have application in each one of these realms. So obviously there's the spiritual side, which I think everybody understands. There's the soul side, which is the mind, the will, the emotions. You talked about that earlier. Food can be a very emotional thing. Cutting it off can require a great act of the will and of the mind and so forth. But what about the physical side? And I know that you would say it's not about losing weight. And yet I think you would agree that we live in a culture, you can see by the obesity epidemic, that we live in a culture where food dominates people, where people are in bondage to it the same way that some are in bondage to drugs or alcohol or pornography or whatever. Some people have a real stronghold that food has brought into their mind. And how can fasting actually help set people free?
I would say that food addiction is probably on par, as you just mentioned, and in some people's lives, greater than drug addiction. The control that food has over our lives is one that many spend an entire lifetime trying to break. And at most points and turns can't ever seem to get free from under and just surrender to the fact that they're always going to be this way. I find that in fasting, God has gifted us with a wonderful opportunity to step through a door of freedom. In fasting, we find the severing of connections to certain foods, the control of certain foods, but it's also, in a physical sense, freeing in the way we approach food. There's something in the chapter on practicality that I write as it relates to the body. Most studies have found that on a daily basis, at least 60% of an individual's energy level is spent digesting food.
Wow.
Some of the most common, let's say, testimonies coming out of fasting is people feel more energy, not at first, because we all go through the detox period. We all go through the place before our body is able to finally detox and rid itself of the controls and the addictions and the different things that have been leveraged against us through the consumption of food. Once we find the clearing, our body is finally free to do what it was always created to do. And that's to focus its energy inward instead of just always trying to process food. Think about how many times over the course of a day many of us eat. Our body never gets a break. It never gets a rest. It never has an opportunity to restore itself. The body's been created in such a way that if you free it from all of these other responsibilities, it will actually internalize and begin to repair and heal itself. Some of the medical testimonies that people have testified to and experienced in the place of fasting has been from everything to psoriasis, blood issues, women with menstrual cycle issues, and on the list goes. So this made me think, what is it? Because we look at fasting from one perspective. Like it's gonna be this long, really painful thing that I don't wanna do. There's no benefit. I don't see any clearing other than like eating, not being able to eat and staying away from social activities for the temptation. But what is it about fasting that God has designed that he not only invites us in, but he heals us along the way? He heals us and he frees us along the way. And if I find freedom in the place of fasting, one of the greatest challenges on the backside of a fast is not to resurrect anything that God has put to death.
Well,
if in the place of fasting, the Lord has given you grace, empowered you to walk away from certain eating habits, to walk away from certain controlling factors as it is connected to food, why, oh why, would we resurrect these things on the backside of a fast? I find that most people can't wait for a fast to end so that they can get back to what they call normal. Why get back to normal if normal was killing you? Why get back to normal if normal was ruining your life?
Yeah.
Why get back to normal if normal has you in a place where you're way overweight? Do not resurrect what God has put to death. And this is what I find is some of the challenge in the place of fasting for most.